Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Lucky, and this is A Lucky Life. Come along with me as I try and get to know myself better and hopefully help you get to know yourself better too. Hi, Jamie. Welcome to A Lucky Life. I'm so glad you're here with me today, and I can't wait to tell the audience a little bit more about you. And I would love for you to take it away, if you wouldn't mind, and give a little context as to who you are, a little bit more about your book,
Yes.
and what people can expect to hear from you today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Jamie. I'm a spiritual life coach. And a lot of times people are like, what does that mean? What do you do? And it's a lot of things. And I don't like to pigeonhole myself to one thing. So it's all encompassing to me as spiritual life coach. I would say I primarily focus on mindset and positivity and helping my clients understand that everything happens for them, not to them, to do mindset shifts and really live in alignment. I also am an intuitive and oracle card reader. I don't love to say gift because I do believe that we all have the ability to
Channel it.
to dip into our soul senses. But the way in which I receive information is called claircognizance. It's like a clear knowing. I like to just call it a download. I will just get information, call it a download, and share whatever the download is.
Yeah.
And I'm an author, and I wrote the book I Chose
Yay.
Not To, which is my whole story about my spiritual awakening and honestly my whole journey that got me to where I am today.
I love it. I'm so excited, and I feel like already there's so many things that you said that I want to touch more on in a little bit. Whenever I read tarot cards, I see the same thing. It's like, I don't say I'm a fortune teller. I don't say like I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. I will use my intuition, like whatever sticks out to me, I'm going to share it with you. You take it, whatever resonates with you is what's true and what your truth is. But like, it's so funny hearing you explain it. I was like, I relate to that so much.
I just got a download of information
Oh my God.
while you were speaking because I think it's really cool that you were saying like I tap into my intuition, but I think we're all connected, right? Like our souls are all one. We're all
sharing
connected.
the oneness.
Yeah, and it's all telepathy. So I feel like it's when we're also tapping into our client or whoever we're giving the reading to's intuition as well, and kind of just validating what they already know.
Yes, 100%.
Every time I have a reading, I'm like, I already intuitively know this,
Yes.
but my human's trying to ignore it, and I like want you to tell me.
I love how you said you're my human. I love that because it is like, I definitely believe mind, body, spirit's all connected, obviously, but it is like your soul. They're connected and separate at the same time. I always get so nervous to read bad cards because I'm like, oh shit. But I also trust that I always say this: the bad cards are only meant to point you to better. Deep down, whatever your instinct tells you that card's about, you already know it.
Right.
And it's just like connecting you to
and
that.
I would
You're human.
reframe it too.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just new information. And
Right.
going back to like the human versus the soul,
Mhm.
I've been thinking a lot about this recently, the whole duality of it all, right? We're souls having a human experience.
Yes.
And we're supposed to have that balance. We're supposed to be on that seesaw of human and soul.
Yeah.
We can't be 100% in our human and we can't be 100% in our spiritualness because the truth is we're in these human bodies on earth.
Giving yourself grace while you're navigating that is so big. But anyways, I would love for you to tell us more. What was your spiritual awakening and what the book is more about?
I've always been a very spiritually connected person. I'd always wonder why I'm here, what I'm doing here, and having this relationship with God, universe, something bigger than myself, and having that
power.
faith 100%, and wanted to explore it. I would say one of the first books that got me into all of this was Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. I am obsessed with that book. I recommend it to everyone. And it just made sense. Like I wasn't reading it like, oh my God, this is crazy. I was reading it like, it makes sense. I'm understanding
And what
things.
point of your life, like, did you read it? Because I know you also wrote about this in your book. And I relate to this. Like, I feel like things come to you when you're ready for them to resonate. Like,
Many Lives, Many Masters, I read for the first time probably when I was in high school. And I read it a few times. My mom told me to read it. She's very into all this too, which helped get me into it.
Cool.
So I always had this awareness. But when I had my aha enlightenment moment was going through this journey that I wrote about and I Chose Not To. And my story is about how I did not want to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And it was a decision that a lot of people didn't understand. And it was very frowned upon at the time during COVID and, society and where we were.
Right.
But that's not the point of the story. It's about making a decision that
Was
was so against the grain.
and against the grain. Yeah.
It was for me, and it was so against the grain, and like everybody was going one way and I was going another way.
Mhm.
And it was really isolating. So I found myself being just at rock bottom,
Yeah.
alone. I was, verbally bullied. I would open my social media and it'd be like, unvaccinated people should die. And that really got into my head. And I was like, is this true? Am I a bad person? Am I, all the questions. And I just spiraled completely into isolation, into this deep, dark depression. And while I was there, like you mentioned before, things find you when you really need it. So my
Mhm.
aunt had gifted me the book, A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And I read it, and something in me just lit up, and I just found myself again. Like every word on the page would just ignite something in me. And I don't know how else to explain it besides a huge spiritual awakening of like, this is all happening for me. And every single thing that came from this journey got me to who I am and where I am today. And I wouldn't
Mhm.
change a single thing. And as much as there was pain and suffering,
Yeah.
it was so beautiful in the end.
And I feel like so many people can resonate and relate to that. And I like what you said, like, even though that was 1000% so big and meaningful to you in that moment, wasn't the point, it's where it got you. And I think there's a quote I was going to read about how society has like no room for difference. And I think this is such an interesting topic, not only in a larger environment that we're in, but also in our relationships. And I think we have so many people and words and the media in our ear telling us what we should do. And I know you talk about should. I think I've done a podcast episode about like should and how it's like can be toxic a lot of the time. We just like follow these norms. My first question I think is, how do you find the balance between building trust with the people that you're with and accountability and having standards and like criteria for alignment and the balance between tolerance and accepting difference and not having conditions? Because like unconditional love,
Yeah.
I catch myself like challenging how I'm placing conditions in my love like all the time.
Yeah. First and foremost, this goes back
Yeah.
to the duality that I was talking about before.
Yeah.
And like I'm still a human. I have those experiences too where I have
Yeah.
expectations.
It's
and then
hard
I'm
to
let
navigate.
down.
I think that's why
It
it's like
is.
relevant. Like
And
it's so hard.
really like to look at it as like every single thing is a lesson to walk you back to yourself, to walk you back to alignment,
Yeah, I agree.
to the unconditional love, and to the trust. So, for example, if you have an expectation from someone and you're let down, it's not blaming that person. It's looking inward. Why am
What am I going to do
triggered?
with that?
And
too?
what is this teaching me? Where do I need to melt more into unconditional love and acceptance?
Mhm.
And simultaneously at the same time, because the other part of your question was kind of, you said having standards, but I'm going to use having boundaries
Right.
instead.
Yeah.
Where it's like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
accept and love someone for who they are, but
Mhm.
not tolerate the behavior in
Right.
your life.
Right.
And I think you see that a lot of times with like friendship endings, relationship
Mhm.
endings, when you need to set boundaries with family members or
Right.
whatever it may be. And it's coming from the place of love,
Yeah.
not from the place of blame or they should do this or anger.
Yeah.
It's coming from the place of, okay, I'm going to love and accept you for who you are. And I'm not going to have hate in my heart, but I'm not going to tolerate this
Yeah.
behavior.
And I think that's so prevalent. And I think also like what I wrote down is like my initial distinction between the two is very similar to how do I know the difference between intuition and fear, like or worry. And I think it kind of comes down to like, is this based on the need to control? Is this based on those fears? Or is it based off of authenticity and like knowing myself
Yeah.
and like trusting myself and returning to love, like
Yeah.
for myself?
And my clients ask me that all the time, like, how do you know if it's intuition or how do you know if it's fear? And my
Yeah, it's
answer is
hard.
it's a feeling. Like you just know and you feel it in your body and your soul. Like
and if you can't feel it yet, that doesn't mean you can't ever. You just need to like take some time.
And using discernment to distinguish between the two. But I always say that intuition is going to come from peace and freedom, even if it's something that might be scary. You feel the peace and the freedom in that because it's so like you're intuitively understanding that that's what's meant to happen. Like even for example with this, my story, like I can't explain it. Just I intuitively knew not to get it. For me to sit here on this podcast and be like, my stories about that I didn't get the COVID vaccine, like that makes me want to throw up. What I really had to learn through this whole thing is that people are always going to have judgment. People are always going to have opinions.
Yeah, and I highlighted that in your book because that's something that I have had a very big lesson in my life, like just with Beer Girl and all of that, like being so perceived in so many different ways by so many different people. And I was like, so that was definitely one of many awakenings for me. Like that was like very, very eye-opening to just accept that people are going to always have their
But you know what? Can we get like very spiritual for a minute?
Absolutely.
Because I really believe that everything that happens, that we experience, and the climate that we're in right now is so much bigger than us, than we know in our human experience, and that it is a way for us to awaken and come together and not be ripped apart, and that our souls chose to come back during this really crazy, hectic time. But for this to share that, like have conversations and share this love and light of that, this is the point of having a human experience, is to come together and not be ripped apart.
Yeah.
And, you know, my clients always say, like, I want to help with this issue. I want to help with this issue. What can I do? I always say the best thing that you can do is the spiritual work on yourself and focus on yourself.
And live and let live.
And then come present yourself as the aligned version, the highest version of yourself into the world, and you will inspire other people to do the same. And when you are in that alignment and in that space of true unconditional love for yourself and for others, that is what's going to melt everyone back to peace and harmony.
Going back to that quote that you had said about there's always going to be fear and there's always going to be judgment and there's always going to be hate. There's always going to be hateful people. And I think that's something too that's like, you cannot get people out of hate with anger and hate. You know what I mean? Like that like doesn't work.
Fire.
Yeah. So it's like, I know that, you know, we all care a lot about the things that are personal to us and we all have reasons for those things. But I think, it comes back to like, what can we do? We can work on ourselves and we can continue to like follow our paths because like, as much as it pains me to see some of these things happening that I'm just like, I obviously wish weren't happening. I wish people weren't suffering. I wish there wasn't so much pain and hate. There's some things we're all learning from it. And hopefully it brings out the good in people in the end because people get tired of it. I hope. I mean, I believe that.
100%. And I think the other part of it too is, and this is something that I really, really needed to learn throughout my journey, is that you're entitled to be where you are and other people are entitled to be where they are. And the goal of speaking your truth and sharing your voice is not to convince anyone to agree with you, that they have to agree with you or that they should be thinking, there's that word again, offering, like you. And to let everyone be who they are and where they are. And same for you, be who you are and where you are. But I understand the fear behind it and I deeply, deeply resonate. I was reading Return to Love. I was still with my ex, and while reading that book, I was finding myself again because I had really lost myself, regardless of all the external factors. And it took me a long time to understand that I couldn't blame them and that I'm the one that let my light go and I needed to get it back. It was a personal responsibility. And while I was reading Return to Love, I was seeing so many things clearly. I was having so much enlightenment and I was understanding the unconditional love. And I felt like I was meeting him with unconditional love and he wasn't able to meet me there. And again, not wrong. It's not bad. That's just his truth of where he was at the time. And I don't fault him for that at all. I have nothing negative to say about that. I have experienced, different times in my life where I was unable to meet someone with unconditional love because of my own stuff. So for me, I was holding on, waiting for that moment for him to meet me where I was with that unconditional love. And we just weren't getting there. And that's okay because we weren't meant to. And I really, really wholeheartedly believe
it's
that
written in the
no
stars.
matter what, exactly, like we were a soulmate for each other and to learn and grow for that period of time. And I always say that soulmates are not just necessarily a romantic partner.
And one person.
It's a friend. It's a coworker. It's a mentor. It's a family member. It's a child. It's really so many things. And we have many soulmates because we have karmic lessons that we agree to sign up and come back to earth and, live out together.
In the beginning of your book, you said, and I briefly mentioned this earlier, that when someone would offer you like a self-help book or something and you'd be like, I don't
Oh,
need that. Like I'm good as I am. That's what
no,
your
yep.
ego said. And I feel so many people may not be consciously aware that they're doing that, but they do that all the time.
You know, it's so funny that you say this
Yeah.
because I didn't really share this before, but after my awakening, I was so obsessed with the book A Return to Love. I wanted everyone to read it.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like so annoying.
Yeah.
I was like to all my
Yeah, I
friends,
did
"You're
that
reading, you're
too.
reading, you're reading." My friends were like, literally shut up.
Yeah, I bought it for everyone.
And I was like, okay, how about if I host a book club
Yeah.
and we read it together? And I had 10 friends say yes. And I was like, great, let's go on
That's
this
a
journey.
lot of friends. Yeah.
And after that, they were like, oh my God, you
Yeah.
need to do this. So now I've done 11 group programs
Yeah.
through different books. And I do watch people, you know, they inquire and they want to know, but it's really hard for them to show up and actually sign up for the book club and actually be held accountable.
Mhm.
Because, and I get it, I was them not too long ago. I'm like, I don't want to look in the mirror and admit that I'm the problem.
Yeah.
But that's the truth, is that we are our own problems.
Have you heard the quote? As much truth as you can accept about yourself is as much as you can grow.
Yes.
So
I haven't heard that, but I agree with that.
It's something like,
Yeah.
I'm butchering it, but it's something like you can't grow until you are aware of what you need to grow in.
Yeah.
Like you need to know.
On the other side of that is the vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to be vulnerable
Which
to admit.
so many people are so scared of.
I told you this last time we met, like I am a Capricorn through and
Yeah.
through. And it is very hard for me to admit when I'm wrong or
Right.
vulnerable.
A lot of people are like that
And
too.
it's just funny that that's
I
like
mean,
my purpose of why I'm here and what I'm doing now, because I'm meant to share my story and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I was extremely against self-help books. And now here I am. I wrote one and I
loved it. Yeah.
I coach people through them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very funny
Yeah.
how you really just want to avoid exactly what you need to look at.
Yeah. I think also where I was going with that too is like, do you ever feel like, and your ego kind of went the other way with finding identity in being like, I don't need to do those things, or like I'm going against the grain of society? Like,
Honestly,
do you feel like
no.
it was just true to you? Like,
Yeah.
authentic? Yeah.
And I love that you asked that question.
Yeah, because I feel
I've
like
been talking about this a
too.
lot with friends about, you know, some spiritual people are are too much in their spiritual that they don't like live in their human.
Yeah.
And use that as an excuse to bypass a lot of things.
Exactly.
And it's actually, this is so funny because
that's what I was getting at.
as I was getting ready and I was putting my makeup on, I was putting my jewelry on,
Yeah.
I was laughing because I'm like, Megan is like me. She's like a girly girl. She likes like not to like call us materialistic.
Yeah.
Like we like to shop and we like our jewelry.
Maybe I showed you that book for a reason.
Yes,
Spiritual Girl and a Mystical
too.
or something.
And I'm not even joking. I was literally thinking about this as I was doing my makeup, and I'm like, this is what I want people to understand, that
you can do both.
Yes, you can be both because spirituality is a feeling.
You're speaking
it's
my
a
language.
Practice. It's not an identity, and I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. And I think people use it as to explain me like I'm like, she's spiritual, and like, yeah, I'm spiritual, and I'm also a lot of other things.
I love that you said that, because going back to like my experience with Beer Girl, I feel like right after it, everyone was putting me in a box, lots of labels, lots of judgment. And then I asked myself like all those questions that were being like pointed at me. And I went really hard the other way. All these labels, I was like, no, like that is such a small piece of me. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a piece of me. And then I had to kind of come back to accepting that part, because I feel like I pushed it away so hard.
Yeah. And I want to talk about labels. Like when it's come at you with the connotation that it's negative, that's when you start to doubt yourself. Yeah. And like for me, everyone's
so relevant.
She's an anti-vaxxer, she's an anti-vaxxer, she's an anti-vaxxer. And I'm like,
you're like questioning, like,
I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, and I really had to sit with that. And, you know, it's very interesting too, because when I met my now fiance, on our first date, he said, you know, I asked around about you and people told me that you're an anti-vaxxer. And I was like, okay. And what did you say? And he said, is she a nice person? And that in that moment,
that is husband material.
It rewired everything for me, because I'm like, okay, people are giving me this label when I don't even know what I am or what's going on. I made one decision and I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I had to get really comfortable being uncomfortable with people defining me and telling me who I am and what I represent. And that's why I had to go so inward, which you also experienced.
Yes.
To know who I am, who the truth is, and like love myself unconditionally, that whatever anyone wants to label me as, have fun labeling me. I don't care.
Yeah. It's not about you. it's about them, and like it's not even our business. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like let people are always going to be those things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what do I do with this information
Right.
now? Like who do I want to be?
Because
Who do I show up
people
as?
are always like, and and I think that's the duality of it too. And it's like,
Yeah.
I also am a human having a human experience. Like,
Yeah.
I'll notice when
Right.
I'm judging someone and I'm like, okay, why? What's bothering you? What's triggering you? What do
Yeah.
you need to look at here?
Hmm.
And then always show up. And I say, in every present moment, you can do better.
Yeah.
You can start over again. Every present moment is a blessing to
Yes.
do better.
Yeah.
It's so easy for your shame to get triggered, for your guilt to get triggered, for all those types of emotions to get triggered, and you want to be defensive.
Hmm.
And then you have to look at it and be like, okay, but like maybe there's truth to this, and I'm okay with this
Yeah.
truth. Like, I'm okay that I'm a sexy girl that drank a beer. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's one little thing.
Yeah.
That does not define me. That's not who I am.
It's so deep.
Yeah.
It runs so deep that it's taken a lot of work, because it's exactly what I've had to come to, and
Right.
like realize that there was so much under the surface that this brought up for me
Yeah.
that helped me.
And you know what book
from
really also helped me with this?
What?
The Four Agreements.
I need to read it.
The
Okay, it's
Four
another
Agreements.
sign that I have, like, it's been sitting on my
Like
shelf.
that book. I mean, A Return to Love, like,
Yeah.
rocked my world. It saved my life, it changed my life,
Yeah.
everything.
I'll read
The
them both.
Four Agreements taught me how to navigate day to day in every situation with the four agreements.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful, tiny little book that truly altered the way that I live my life. It's just like, I feel like nurturing yourself and loving
Grace.
yourself on the journey. Exactly. Having compassion and giving yourself grace for where you are, and
Yeah.
making the decisions that you need to make to keep yourself safe and comfortable until you're ready to like fly.
Yeah. Until you're ready for the next journey, the next
Mhm.
step, the next level, the next
100%.
era. And it's always, I think black and white thinking is
So human.
so human, and it's a trap. You know,
Yeah.
it's a trap a lot of the time, and it's so relevant in
Yeah.
today's society.
And the other thing too, and like, this is why I do what I do, because at the end of every book club, my clients will be like, thank you so much, like that was amazing. And
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
thank you.
That's
Like,
why
it is constant work. That's why it's called work, because I will read a book and then I'll get so into my human that I'll forget what I read, and I'll be in a place of panic and fear. And I'm like, I got to go back to the
Yeah,
basics. I got to go back to the drawing board. I need to remind myself. I need to soothe myself. I need to help myself through this.
Right.
And that's why I say it's constant work to show up for yourself and do this kind of
Yes.
healing.
It's a constant practice.
Yes.
And I think being aware, like I also used to be very go, 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 go. Let's please everybody. We can talk about people pleasing. And it's like I've had to learn how to set boundaries with myself and with other people who I may have tried to please in the past, but again, like maybe aren't my people, and being
Right.
okay with that, not
Yeah.
needing to be loved by everybody.
Yes.
You know?
I have experienced that
Yes,
too.
it's difficult, very difficult. Yeah.
Yes. And I would say I am a recovering people pleaser. I still have my tendencies.
What are your like best tips for people who like
was-
have those tendencies?
I was literally going to say the book, The Four Agreements, like really,
Okay,
really
wow.
helped
Like
me. And I
if
would
you
say
have, this is a
too,
clear message. You got to read the
Yeah.
Four Agreements, and so do I.
and come read it with me in my book club.
Yes.
But I would say really checking in with yourself and having the moments of honesty of like, why do I feel like I need to do this? And it's always going to
Yes.
stem back from something with fear, right? Like if I'm afraid that if I don't do this, that so and so is going to be mad, or so and so is going to think this, or so and so is going to not accept me. And it goes back into like the unconditionally loving yourself so much, of knowing who you are and your truth, and that you're a good person, all those things, and you're safe to make the decision for yourself.
We're in a culture where we move so fast that we don't even take a second.
No.
And I like how in your book you said, I use my form of meditation because it's different for everybody. Journaling, taking a walk outside, breath work, whatever it may be, to kind of like train your body to take those seconds.
Yeah.
And to connect with yourself and connect with your oneness. I think that that's huge. And making sure that like you're not just on autopilot, you're present, and so that you can make a better decision and not just what old you would do. And I think that kind of ties into a question I have for you, which is, you describe unlearning who you were taught to be. What were some of the hardest old beliefs that you had to shed?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say for me, it was, I don't even know like where it came from. I think it was just in my subconscious. Like be married by 30 and have kids. I'm 32.
So relevant.
I'm not married yet. I'm getting married. But if you
Right.
asked me if this is where I would be like, hell no.
I thought I was going to be married at 23.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And I think that the societal pressure of like
Huge.
just finding someone and just getting married. And it's like, I mean, there's so many things wrong with that. But from like a deeply spiritual lens, it's like you have these soul contracts for a reason, and
Mhm.
timing is everything. And learning the lessons beforehand is everything.
Mhm.
And I really needed to get comfortable, again, being
With the
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Of that reality is not going to come true for me. And I literally would not change 1 second of it.
Getting comfortable in the uncomfortable and with the unknown is huge. And I also think it's so relevant. Like, I feel like so many women especially can relate to like having that pressure,
Mhm.
especially about getting married. And
Yeah.
I think, which this is a good thing in my opinion, is happening a little bit later now, so that
Yeah.
it gives you more time to like know yourself. And so
Yeah.
that you can make
Like
trust
in
that
your
you're making
20s,
the right
you're
decision.
so young. You know what else I answered to that question?
Yeah.
For me too, it was like about the media and the news and
Mhm.
being informed.
Yes. Oh,
And
you
I
talked
was
about that
like,
in your book. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and people be like, you're
There's-
ignorant, you don't know this. And I'm like,
That's their judgment again.
exactly. And like, also, how do we even know anything that they're telling us
It's
is true? Because how many times do they say, oh, actually it was this, actually it was this? And I was just like, I want peace, and my choice for peace is to not subscribe to that.
And there is no like punishment or consequences for putting that out there, the negativity out there. So people are always going to just do that.
Yeah.
And it's on you to discern what, because there can be balance with it, or you can block it out. Like, but
we're not meant to be inundated
always
with the amount of information that we are. And there's so much pain and suffering and fear. And yes, it exists. But when we absorb that all, then we can't move forward in a loving, from a loving, peaceful place. So I always say to my clients too, like, you got to take care of yourself. If you don't want to be informed, that's okay. That is your decision to decide. And I'm like,
and you can take judgment from people like, oh, that's because I hear a lot of time that's privilege. Like, okay. And that doesn't mean I'm not grateful for that privilege. Right. And it also doesn't mean that to the degree that I don't want to be, like, I'm allowed to have balance.
But this is something else. I think I said this to you when we first connected, but also like every single person's journey and experience, whatever they go through, is so real and traumatizing and painful to that person that it's not comparing apples to apples.
Right.
And our society loves to compare apples to apples. Well, you didn't go through this and you didn't go through this, but like,
you didn't go through what I did.
Exactly. And you don't know what it was like to be in my brain and to be in my body and to be in my experience of what I went through. And sure, on paper, it might not seem as bad, but it felt just as bad and it felt just as real in my body and my experience.
Another thing I want to say on this note is, again, like, I don't know where I heard this, where I read this, where I saw this. Someone was talking about how you can't always just be absorbing. Like, you can't, whether it's positive or negative, like, you need to take a step back and see what you want to do with all the, like, when you're just in a constant state of consumption.
Yeah.
You also are not taking any time to be creative and put things out there. You're also not taking any time to decide how you feel about what you're absorbing. And that's how you can easily become brainwashed, or like, that's how you can easily not be able, you lose yourself.
Right. You become unconnected to you and you become connected to all the external things.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's why I say I'm learning.
You're easier to control too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So if nothing else, take a little time away. Like, what I will do sometimes is I'll just like go for a couple days. I'll delete the apps and I'll re-download them. I don't like being totally disconnected, but I do. And also, like, a lot of my livelihood is there now, so I have to find balance with it. But it's a good challenge that I need to have.
And it's also like, to me, it's like, I don't watch anything scary, like no scary movies or no scary shows.
I love scary stuff.
I'm like, I'm going to watch comedy
and
feel good things. And that's my choice.
That's your choice. And my choice is to activate that stress hormone like, and thrill. But no, I do see a lot of like studies or whatever that's like, it's not good if you like, these horror shows. I'm like, oh,
but here's
whatever. It's me. Too. It's me.
This is what I wanted to say this earlier too, and I forgot. Now it's coming back full circle. Everything is nothing until you give it meaning.
100%.
So that is something so important to take for anyone listening with you, like
Yes.
literally nothing has meaning unless you give it meaning.
Yes.
And that is something that also helped me navigate a lot too, because I'm like, if I don't agree with someone
Yes.
who's making fun of me or
Right.
who's passing judgment on me,
Yeah.
then it has no meaning. The second I agree,
Yes.
and that's where the 4 agreements comes in again, and I make that agreement,
it's
then
also evidence that there's already that thought in there,
yes,
because like, for example, to
exactly.
illustrate your point, I love the analogy of when people say, like, if I were to look at you and be like, oh my God, Jamie, you're literally so tall. Like, oh my God, you're always like towering over me. Like, you're no, like,
I'm 5 feet.
but what I'm saying is, like, that's not true.
Right.
It's stupid, right? Like,
Right.
it's stupid and it's untrue. I will never take that personally. I'll be like, what the fuck's wrong with, like, okay, that's weird of them to say,
Right.
but that's just not true. Now, if they're saying something like, oh, like something that does resonate, like some belief that you might have held about yourself before. Like, I used to think that I wasn't capable, wasn't smart, like for whatever, growing up, like I had ADD. I was like taken to these different like doctors and taken out of class with the aide or whatever for a long time when I was little. And so I just had that belief about myself. So if someone were to like say that to my face now, like, well, not now, but maybe a few years ago, I would have like taken that.
Right.
And I would have been like defensive.
Right.
And that would show me that
it's always internal.
It's internal.
Always.
Yeah. But again, they're saying that for their own reasons.
Yeah.
But it is like, if you don't believe it to be true, then it has no meaning.
Exactly.
What do you still struggle with? And what has been an ongoing journey for you? Because we just talked about, the hardest beliefs that you had to overcome. I mean, there's always an ongoing journey, but is there anything like sticks out that's like so?
For me right now,
Yeah.
It's the duality of the experience, because I am a spiritual person.
Yes.
I believe in God. I believe in universe. I believe in spirit guides. I have faith. I believe in the miracles. I've lived it. I've experienced it firsthand. I teach it, all of those things. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's easier to teach it than to apply it to your own life. Where I'm in this situation where I quit my corporate job a year ago and I really took the leap of faith, and I'm not where I expected I would be. And I have to remember, I have to give myself grace that I've come such a long way, and that having the expectations is just going to leave me down. Mm-hmm. And I need to really step into my gratitude.
Yeah.
But for me right now, it's the duality of like being a very spiritual person and also being a human being, and figuring out the balance between the two, and like not giving up and still holding the faith and the dream. While still, having like being realistic
just
about
being
the
multi-dimensional
human experience that I'm living in.
You think a lot of people can relate to that. Also, they put their identity in these different categories.
Yes.
And then sometimes they're losing other parts of themselves. And I think, again, we allow other people to put us in categories.
For categories, like if you like the spiritual work, the spiritual practice, like there's no different categories. So for example, like you can like be like, oh God, you take the love life, I trust you there, but work, I'm going to control it. So we make these categories
where we can control.
But there are none when you really look at it from like a macro lens,
holistic,
of spirituality. And I feel like that like answers your question of where I am right now, where I'm like with the career stuff, I'm like in my humanness.
We did talk about this when we first met up too.
Yeah. And it's like, I can easily give other things to God, the universe, whatever, and have so much faith, like unshakable, undeniable faith, but with something that is triggering and hard, I have to control. So that's like where I am right now.
That is speaking volumes to me. Like that is so true. And I am thinking about all the places in my life where I'm having a harder time. And sort of a similar note, many people feel pressure from family, friends, or society to stay on a path that doesn't feel authentic. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone listening who feels stuck in that cycle? And I feel like this is all advice for someone stuck in that cycle, but like I think it's very hard when you're really stuck in it. Like it just seems so overwhelming. Like even taking that first step to like analyze, like, is this life really for me?
Yeah.
Or is this
to admit that
decision? Yes. To have the awareness.
Awareness is step one. You can't change anything without awareness. Yeah. But my advice would be, it's your life. They're not living it. Yeah. So you have to live it for you.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it does take those moments of breakdown, crumbling, whatever it may be for you to get there.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the journey and it's all beautiful.
Yeah.
And just being truthful about what it is that makes you happy and what lights you up. And if you're not feeling happy and you're not feeling lit up, then you have to make a change.
Yeah. Just like not being a victim in your life and
Mhm.
like choosing to show up and control is a tricky word. Like
Surrender.
surrender. Which is like the opposite, but
Yeah.
means the same thing that I'm intending it to mean.
Exactly.
And trust and make choices that are coming from an authentic place
Yeah.
rather than a place that's not you.
Yeah.
Here's a good one too. What role does fear play in transformation, and how do we distinguish between the kind of fear that's protective versus the kind that's holding us back? And I know we talked a little bit about like intuition and like
Yeah.
deciphering.
Well, I think that it's one and the same. And I think
Yeah.
that we need to like redefine fear. And I
Yeah.
actually had to do this after my awakening too.
Yeah.
Like I was like, fuck fear, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
then I was like, no, like we need to thank our fear because our fear is our biggest teacher.
Mhm.
And it really is just trying
Yeah.
to protect us. That's all
Yes.
it's doing.
And having like a little piece of compassion for it. I know you
Yeah.
also like Gabby Bernstein,
Love.
and she talks about a lot about thanking the protector parts.
I was just going to say, you have to thank the
Yeah.
fear
Yeah.
because the fear is
It
your
is
compass.
protecting you.
The
Even if
fear-
it's misguided sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you know what? I think it's the fear with a lack of courage
Mhm.
that is the downfall, if that makes sense, because
Yeah,
you need
I like
courage to
that.
triumph over fear
Yeah.
because you can't, right? So it's
Right.
in a moment of you're afraid.
Duality also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you need your courage to be able to get to where you want to go, to get to the other side of it.
Yeah.
But the fear is guiding you there.
Mhm.
And it's so important to thank your fear.
Yeah.
It's so important to look at your fear dead on, have a conversation with it.
Yeah.
And I always say, I don't know who this quote is from, but it is not from me, but it's something that I always say.
I know.
It's like the fear can be in the car and it needs to be in the back seat,
I've
not
heard
driving.
that. I used to be so ashamed and embarrassed of my defensiveness and like the parts of me that were insecure.
Yeah.
Insecure was something I had shame around. I couldn't be it.
Yeah.
And that was something I definitely had to learn how to thank a little bit and acknowledge why and where it came from in order to, and also I'll be aware that I was being that way.
Yeah.
So that I could grow it.
It allows you, in your example of like being defensive, it shows
Yeah.
you where you need to get
Yeah.
to love yourself and have
Yeah.
compassion for yourself.
Right. But I was just like so embarrassed of it that I couldn't accept and even be aware that I was being defensive.
Yeah.
Like even defensive about being defensive.
Right.
Like it was
Yeah.
just like a cycle.
Oh, I'm definitely
I know.
like
I
that.
try my best.
Yeah.
I try my best, and that's all we can do.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I definitely relate to that, and I've had to really sit and like meditate on thanking it, and
Yeah.
because it does come from a good place. It comes from a place where a lot of times it's rooted back in childhood, and where you felt you had to survival, be defensive, or you had to protect that part of you that was, being attacked or not being seen.
And you know what's so interesting about that too? It's like it's so much effort and energy to be in that space. And we don't realize that we have our swords up all the time, but we're just fighting with ourselves.
Yeah.
And the moment
yeah.
that you're able to put the swords down and surrender and melt into
And like be aware of that.
right, the love, like that's where the peace is.
Yeah. On that note, what do you hope readers take away from your story that maybe they don't expect going in? Not really on that note, but
Ooh,
anyways.
I mean so many things,
Yeah.
but that you are the writer of your own life and your own book.
Yes, yes.
So it's so important to not worry about external factors, to not blame anything externally. And that if you really, really want to change your life, it has to come from within, starting with your mindset.
Yeah. I actually saw, I think it was on some podcasts, but a monk was saying it's not about happiness, it's about peace. Like,
Yeah.
because happiness is fleeting. Like, if we're beings,
Right.
we have highs and lows.
Right.
We have sadness, we have happiness. And like, of course, we experience it all, but like finding the peace
Yeah.
in all of that, and like, and creating that
Right.
peace.
And it goes back to the duality again.
Yeah.
Like it being a human and having the
Yes.
human experience, both
You
many
can't
things can
avoid
exist at once.
you can't avoid
Right. And
feeling those things.
it's just allowing everything to exist,
Yeah.
allowing to be frustrated and allowing to be at peace,
And
allowing to be sad and allowing to be happy.
yeah, all we can do is get more comfortable in dealing with uncomfortable and get better at it. Like,
Yes.
and that's why I love yoga because there's
Mhm.
so many metaphors for it. It's like
Yes.
you're in an uncomfortable pose where clearly you have tension, where you haven't
Right.
stretched, right? And so like you're sitting in that pose and you're like, dang, this is uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
And so the more that you do that pose, the better you get at it.
Right.
You know, you're still going to find places where you're uncomfortable
Yeah.
and you're going to hit limits, but like you're getting better and you're
Right.
growing by putting yourself in those positions.
And like we said before, how do you get better at yoga? You practice.
Yeah.
You have to show up and practice. And
Exactly.
even if you if you do yoga and you take a giant break for a year, you're not going to be able to do the
Right.
poses as you were a year ago. And that's why I say you have to show up and continuously do this work.
And you learn the difference too between discomfort and pain. Like in
Mhm.
yoga, there are going to be poses that your body can't do.
Yeah.
And that's just not for you. And so you're, instead of like pushing and forcing it, you're going to have to say, okay, not this pose.
Yeah.
I feel pain. And again, it's kind of like discovering the difference between like fear and intuition. It's like leaning into things that aren't right for you and how it never works and just running into the
Yeah.
same wall over and over
And
again.
I think that's also a beautiful metaphor for
I
what we were
know.
talking about before about how
Yes.
everyone's on their own journey.
Yeah.
And not comparing the journeys because like sure,
So
if whatever
hard.
yoga pose isn't for you, like you don't
You're
have the
looking
same
around
lesson
the
as someone else.
classroom.
Yeah.
And you're feeling like less than because you can't do crow pose and someone else
Right.
can. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many metaphors in
So
yoga.
many.
I love it. So we talked about meditation and all these different great pieces of advice, but what tools do you use to strengthen your spiritual practice now?
I journal.
Yeah, journaling.
And I was so against journaling. Like
Yeah, I think
really
you wrote that in your book
against
too. Yeah.
journaling.
I
Like
love
I was
that.
like, I don't need this shit. I'm above this shit.
Yeah.
Nope, I need that. I journal pretty much
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Especially if I'm having a hard day or a bad day.
Then you will love The Artist's Way. You need to
I
read that
know,
book.
I do need to read
You
that
need to
book.
read that book. Yeah.
So journaling.
Yeah.
I'm like you, like I can't sit still. It's very hard for me to sit still.
Look at me.
So I will go to sound baths because it forces
Yes.
me to sit still and it's not dead silent. I love a sound bath. That is something
Yeah.
I try to go to one once a month.
Yeah.
And I read books.
Amazing.
I read the books.
Yeah, I read the
Yeah.
books. You gotta read the books.
Read the
Gotta read the
books.
books. Gotta do, again, what works for you.
Mhm.
On a final note, are you working on anything new or any goals or future plans that you wish to share? Because I know we talked about your book club, your group
Yes.
programs, but
So
maybe another book on the way?
honestly, it hasn't crossed my mind, but
Not
never
yet.
say
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
What I really love to teach, it's what I like to learn about, is I don't know how to explain it other than like just your soul and the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
Why we're here, reincarnation, soul contracts, connecting with the other side, connecting with your soul, all of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I love to learn about. I love to read Brian Weiss. I love to read Michael Newton. Those are like my obsession.
yeah.
I recently launched a course called Spirituality 101 because
Amazing.
I want to make it digestible.
Yeah.
I like to go like deep down the rabbit holes with this
And
stuff.
someone needs exactly
But there needs to be an entry
what
point.
you're
Exactly.
giving.
So I started a course, Spirituality 101. I taught it over the summer. It was amazing.
Wow.
I'm so proud of myself for
Yay.
creating it,
That's
for
amazing.
launching it, for having people sign up.
It's hard to
take
do
it.
that.
Do a lot more of that because a lot of the people who took the course, they were like, I want spin-offs. Like there was one week where it was, learning that Earth is a school.
Yeah.
And it was
yeah.
only an hour meeting.
Right.
And they're like,
you could
"Wait, I
talk
want
about it
more information."
forever. Yeah.
So I want to do more things like that. I
Great.
actually have a third eye opening course that I have yet to teach,
Amazing.
but there's more things like that
that are
I
upcoming
want
and you're
to
gonna
teach.
dive into.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
On Instagram and TikTok at Aron_, and you can purchase my book on Amazon.
You
I
heard it
chose that
here
too.
first, and I will tag Jamie in all of the clips and everything that
Yes.
we post. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming.
so much.
I
This
cannot
was
wait for
amazing.
tomorrow. We
Yes.
have a little date night. We're going to
see Anthony Maraca, who is unbelievable. If you haven't seen him, I highly suggest seeing him. He's an unbelievable psychic medium.
Yeah, so this is my first experience like this, and I've always wanted to do
Oh my
something
God,
like
I've
this.
seen
And
him like 15 times.
I feel so like special about it. Like
Yeah,
this
you're gonna love
is
it.
meant to be. So
You're gonna do
thank
a
you
whole
so
podcast
much. I
about
know
it.
I might.
Yeah.
Like I really might. I love it. Well,
Love
thank you so
it.
much for coming.
Thank
And
you. This was so
yeah,
fun.
amazing.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Lucky, and this is A Lucky Life. Come along with me as I try and get to know myself better and hopefully help you get to know yourself better too.